Hey, welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to cover temperature control inside the van. So as you may know, most vehicles have heat and AC that come out of the dash, but how do you make the temperature comfortable when the vehicle isn't running? We're going to answer all those questions here as we talk about different heating options, fans, and the important role that windows play on the comfort and interior temperature. Even with proper insulation, controlling the interior temperature of the van is key to maintaining a comfortable living space. It's one thing to spend a single night cold out under the stars. It's another thing to be very cold every single night in your van. The same thing goes for extreme heat. No one wants to be super sweaty climbing into their bed at night, and on a hot sunny day, it's nice to be able to take refuge inside the van. If you'll be traveling to a place that gets very cold, you'll want to consider installing a heater in your van. A heater is also important for ensuring your water pipes don't freeze when the temperatures drop below 32 degrees. If you're looking to install a heater, there are a few main types to consider: propane, electric, and diesel. Propane heaters like the Mr. Buddy are popular with DIYers because they're inexpensive and you can connect them to the same propane tank you use to cook with, or you can use refillable propane canisters. They heat a small space quickly and can be easily stored when you don't need them, but there are a few downsides. Propane heaters tend to result in condensation, so you'll want good airflow. Additionally, many people are a little uncomfortable having open propane inside their vehicle, particularly while they sleep. A faulty leaking propane tank releases carbon monoxide into the air, which can be deadly if you don't catch it right away. Yet another reason you want good airflow. Another option is to install a fixed propane heater. These produce less condensation and work well in cold temperatures. A fixed propane heater requires a little bit more installation work, and typically the propane tank is vented to the outside, which reduces the safety concerns. Electric heaters are only suitable if you're running on a generator or plugged into shore power. Electric heaters, and this also includes electrical blankets, are taxing on your solar-powered system, but otherwise they're lightweight, quiet, and will heat a small space well. My sense is that you're likely here because you want to get off the grid, and so in that case, electric heaters are not going to be a good option for you. The final option is a diesel heater, which works by siphoning a small amount of fuel from your vehicle's diesel tank. These are a heftier investment up front, but they are very efficient over time. In fact, some brands are reported to burn only a gallon of fuel for every 20 to 50 hours of use. S-Bar and Webasto make the most popular diesel heater models, and they're both quite small and compact. A popular place to install this type of heater is under your passenger seat. They can get a little bit noisy, which is something to be aware of as stealthiness is your top priority. In this case, you might consider installing a muffler to reduce the noise. Some models of diesel heaters will also heat the water. I have a Webasto Dual Top Evo 6 in this van, which does this. I'll go into more detail when we cover water heaters later in this module. No matter what heater you choose, I also suggest getting a carbon monoxide detector with an alarm so you will be alerted of any leaks while you sleep. Alright, now let's move on to windows. We've all been wooed by the pretty photos of vans with tons of windows. I mean, who wouldn't want a 360-degree view from inside their van? With that said, windows do come with some downsides, and it's important to be aware of those when deciding exactly how many windows you want. First, with windows, you lose insulation. In my current van, this is the reason I opted against windows on the rear door. With rear windows, depending on the layout of your bed, heat escapes right where your head is, which is kind of a double whammy. Plus, with a raised platform bed, part of the window may dip below the bed frame, rendering the bottom part of the window pretty useless. Another thing is the more windows you have, the more curtains you'll need, which is something people often overlook. Depending on your window trim, you can use magnets, Velcro, or snaps to secure curtains to the wall. If a view is more important, we get it, but do keep these details in mind. Unless you DIY your curtains, especially curtains that insulate, they can be very expensive, running upwards of $1,500 or more for a full set of insulating blackout curtains that help control the temperature and offer maximum privacy. The curtains in this van were made by Outside Van. They are made of a ripstop nylon with a layer of closed cell foam on the inside, which gives them insulating properties. I've noticed that they're very effective at controlling hot and cold air transfer through these windows. In hindsight, though, in my next van, I probably will reduce the total number of windows even further. In this van, in order to control the temperature and our privacy, we actually rarely put all the curtains up. We also lose storage space along the walls because of all the windows. So next time, I'll probably keep the windows I have up front near the slider door, but I might get rid of this middle row. Another thing to note is the difference between factory windows and aftermarket windows. Factory windows, at least the ones on spinners, do not open or vent. That's why you'll see many people either adding or replacing factory windows with aftermarket ones. C.L. Lawrence and a brand called AMA are two popular companies that make vented aftermarket windows for these style of vans. In order to keep your van cool in the summer, as well as to prevent condensation in your van in the winter, I highly recommend installing 1 or 2 ceiling fans depending on the length of your vehicle. In the 170-inch wheelbase Sprinter van, 2 fans works great. So we have one over our galley here and another one over the bed. If we have one pulling air in and then the other blowing air out, we can get really decent airflow in here, especially if we have a window or 2 open. By planning our route to avoid super hot climates like the southern Utah desert in the summer, we've never felt the need to have an additional rooftop air conditioning unit. The 2 most popular brands for fans are Max Air and Fantastic Fan. When searching for the right fan, some of the features you'll want to think about are whether you want a rain cover or a remote control, the number of speeds, as well as the price. I'll link to some fan options down below in the resources section of this lesson. I'm going to wrap up this lesson by quickly talking about air conditioning. As previously mentioned, if you install a couple of fans and windows, you use quality insulation, and have some insulating window curtains, you can go a long ways in making the temperature inside your van comfortable. So can planning your travels around the weather. By avoiding the hottest places and the hottest months of year, you can eliminate the need for an additional air conditioning unit in your van. If you do want to install an additional AC unit, know that you will either need a generator, an extremely robust power system, or frequent access to shore power. Even then, they can consume a ton of juice and you won't be able to run it 24/7. With a big battery bank, you might be able to run the AC for a few hours at a time, but then you'll need to go find a way to charge up. For this reason, I'm not going to go into more details about AC units, but for those of you who really do want an AC unit in your van, I'm going to include some additional resources down below. So that wraps up this lesson on temperature control. Now you should have a good understanding of the different and most cost-effective ways that you can heat and cool your van.